today. I'm really excited to have three individuals from Wisconsin Green Fire here. Meleesa Johnson, their executive director, and Chris Mechenich and Nancy Turyk, who are both on their advisory committee. So, hey ladies.
Thank you. All right, can you hear me?
Yes.
Sort of. Eric, is that yes or no?
I can hear you.
Okay. I didn't know, so just wanted to make sure. Thank you for being here. Thank you for showing up. How many of you are already Green Fire supporters? Yeah, thank you. Like Jennifer was saying, we took a hit in 2025 because of, well, there's some things going on in Washington, D.C. that might be disruptive to environmental protection and protection of our natural resources. So we are a 501c3, we are funded by donors who support us. All the work that we do is because of your kindness, your generosity. So thank you if you are a donor. We're going to talk about Wisconsin Green Fire. How many of you heard of Wisconsin Green Fire? Not that table, I know you haven't. Okay. All right, thank you. We're just going to talk about, who we are, what we do, and why the heck we do what we do, hit our head against a brick wall someday. But it's worth it. Are you open? I can. Sure, you said you were going to. Okay. There we go. Again, thank you for setting this up. Thank you to your staff. I know how much work goes into planning events. So thank you for doing that. Thank you to Central Waters for making this space available. This is wonderful. I've been here for other events, and it's just, they're an amazing community asset. Please patronize. And then I want special thanks to a couple of people. There's George Kraft in the back, Christine, of course, Nancy. These are what we call our volunteers, but I like to refer to them as our in-kind subject matter experts. They donate their time to Green Fire so that we can produce the product we produce, which is science-based information. So thank you very much, all of you. Thousands of hours of in-kind expertise. And the land acknowledgement, I won't read it. We are standing on Menominee land. Not land that was once Menominee land. It is Menominee land. Indigenous people don't think of past, present, and future. They think of the here and now. I want to honor that and let you know that Green Fire takes that very seriously. So we honor the Menominee, the Ho-Chunk, and all of the other tribal nations. We work in collaborations with them when we can. And mostly what I'm finding is we learn from them. Next. 2026 will be the year that we are embarking upon building the bridge between Western science, academic science, and traditional ecological knowledge. We already have a contractor out of British Columbia, actually. She is indigenous, and she teaches, not training, some people call it training. She teaches how we can blend Western science and traditional ecological knowledge, because after all, they're all science. So 2026 is our year of trying to bridge that gap, incorporate it where we can, and honor the tradition of observation and pass down information. Next. So we were founded in 2017. Green Fire is really off of, let's just get to the point. A lot of our founders were formerly with PNR, with academia, with AdCap, and then Scott Walker came in, and many of you also have experienced that, and Act 10 and the diminishment through science. Climate change was scrubbed from the state website, because it didn't matter anymore. We're open for business. That was the only thing that mattered. So those people with plenty of, let's just say, they had tenure, and they didn't want to put up with it, and they left. They retired. They said, thank you very much, State of Wisconsin. We enjoyed doing what we did, and now it's time for us to move on. In doing that, they went home and fixed the house up and maybe gardened and fished, and then went, wait a minute. We have so much more to give. Hundreds of years, if not thousands of years of experience. And they decided to form Green Fire because they wanted to take that experience and bring it together to continue to do the work to protect Wisconsin's natural resources and our environment. So it's a little daunting when your mission is to address the most pressing conservation issues. Do you think we'll ever achieve that mission? It is pretty daunting, but it keeps us busy and it's important. Because I personally, and I suspect many of you do, I believe that clean air and clean water, healthy environment, is not only what we want for the future, I believe it is a human right. Next. Again, what we do. So we bring that science together. Again, I talked about George and Chris's work, Nancy's work. We bring this work together. And we produce products, whether it's a conservation bulletin or a simple paper or Opportunities Now, which is a massive document, and put it together to underpin the advocacy work that we will do in Madison and recently in Washington, D.C. A big part of my job is coordinating that and then also visiting with legislators. And we're nonpartisan. Literally nonpartisan. I work with legislators on both sides of the aisle. Because believe it or not, many people on, let's just say the other side, which from where I am, they are very concerned about the environment. They enjoy fishing. They enjoy hunting. So we work in a nonpartisan way, and I travel the state talking to people just like you on how we can do that. One of our big goals, looking around the room, and join just here, looking around, maybe over here a couple. We want to build that next generation, to build the bench, right? You cannot do this work forever if you're in your 60s and 70s. We're all time limited, right? So a big part of our work is to engage that next generation of leaders so they can carry on, so that we can give them tools and empower them and just let them go and do the work necessary. It's their future that we're working to build. Next. So examples of some of our work, lots of stuff up there. I'm going to recognize that table over there. So they are folks with both the Last Wilderness Alliance and Wisconsin Lakes. They are partnering with us on the effects of wake boats on lake ecosystems and health. Been working on that for about 2 years. Collectively, we have worked on this 2 years in July? Yeah, gosh. The idea of these massive boats that disrupt the lake ecosystem, tear up the bottom of the lake, push water into shores, disrupt fish habitat, spawning grounds, just resuspend solids, or the solids at the bottom of the lake. Everything from PCBs to mercury are being torn up. We've developed this coalition. We have, how many? 80 members that are part of this coalition across the state. All kinds of organizations. It's not, every one of these organizations is aligned with the idea that we need to protect our lake ecosystems. And Last Wilderness Alliance has been working around the state to, at the local level, to help locals implement ordinances. The state has no standards right now. Unless you talk about invasive species, that's the only standard. So what we're working on is how do we work around the state to engage that conversation and then hit Madison and say, do something. Let's have, instead of having 500 ordinances for every town, village, and city, let's have statewide standards, minimum depth, minimum distance from shore, to have these, keep these big boats from disrupting our lake ecosystems. Most recently, the one in the middle, big check unchecked, I was proud to be a co-author of that. It's about data centers and what local stakeholders can think about doing to protect their communities from the advent of data centers. Even if a community says, you know what, we want data centers, we see this as a big opportunity, what are the things that you should be thinking about? What should your zoning look like? How do you make sure that you're not damaging the ecosystem in your sensitive environmental areas? That was in collaboration with Midwest Environmental Advocates, Sierra Club, and Healthy Climate Wisconsin. So those are two big examples of how Green Fire, small organization, literally, works collaboratively to magnify our voice to do the work that we're doing. Our experts on PFAS, I am the co-author on that one too. We've been working on PFAS and suggesting, demanding, pushing, expecting some sort of standards, groundwater standards for PFAS and how we can protect people from the damage of these legacy, the most dangerous of the legacy compounds. We've been working on forest at risk. So last year, a year ago, we put out a paper and we've been advocating for how, I think we talked about it, the Forest Lab is going to be here. Our forests are not only habitat, but they're also big economic drivers. How do we make sure that we've got good policies in place that will protect not only that economic driver, but the habitats as well? So you can see we've got a lot of things going on, 21st century energy policy. I think Nancy was a part of that. And the big one we're going to be bringing back, you see the wetlands and waters in Wisconsin, navigating changes to Wisconsin federal waters, blah, blah. There's a couple things going on at the federal level. Once there was one thing, a Supreme Court ruling called the Sackett decision, which was catastrophic for wetlands, along with proposed changes to the Clean Water Act, Section 401, could leave about 80% of Wisconsin wetlands underwater. In other words, developers can come in and go, hey, I'm just going to fill it in because I want to put a condo there. So it's going to limit the protections. We are going to be back at that because of the proposed changes to Section 401. Next. We also do provide public testimony. And you can see the one up there, Green Fire provided public testimony at the administrative law hearing on the Vista Sand Solar Project. We worked in an interdisciplinary way to understand that project. So we've got our Climate and Clean Energy group that sees this as a good project, and it is a good project. We had our wildlife group, our experts in wildlife, who said, oh, it's a little close to the prairie chickens. We've got prairie chicken folks here. There might be some issues here. Our fisheries group said, oh, there's an intermittent stream there that is a trout stream. How do we make sure that we're going to protect that trout stream? And then our amphibian folks said, there's quite a bit of that near that intermittent stream. Is there a way we can raise the fence to ensure that amphibians are able to go back and forth between spawn or breeding grounds? I presented all of that at a hearing in Clover, actually. Nancy was a part of bringing together some of the comments and all of our other experts. I was proud to say, after the hearing, the administrative law judge came up to me and goes, Wisconsin's Green Fire gave the most comprehensive testimony of any other group that came here today. And we started at 10 in the morning and we went until 8 at night. I was so proud to represent this organization that thought holistically. So thanks to everybody who did that. So we provide testimony at public hearings. We have a lot to say. Next. 2025. Let's all take a deep breath. It was a brutal year. It was a brutal year for anyone who cares about the laws that I thought would always be there. Clean Water Act, Clean Air Act, Endangered Species Act, National Environmental Policy Act, all of the policies that are attached to it. I watched the experts at Green Fire implemented those laws in Wisconsin. And they're seeing their lives' work torn apart. It was tough. But Wisconsinites are made of tough stuff. And regardless of things, all of the noise, all of the chaos, we stayed focused, and we commented on the Federal Register. We reached out to legislators. It's not easy reaching out to Washington, D.C. It's easy reaching out to folks in Madison because they're our neighbors. But we were working with congressional delegations, and we were working to submit everything we could to the Federal Register to provide science-based, data-driven information to help them see why we need to protect our habitats, our species, our water, our air. Next. Some of our projects, again, we're going to continue our work on wake boats. We are going to be continuing our work on nature-based solutions, which Nancy's going to be talking about. We will continue our work on nitrate watch, which Chris is going to talk about. We'll have some more collaboratives that we're going to be working on. I'm part of the group of collaboration working on the 50-year basin plan for the Upper Wisconsin Basin. Oh, and George left. But so, how many of you have watched or witnessed manure spreading on winter fields? Yeah. Or manure spreading adjacent to a stream. Or manure spreading, and then come in and maybe we're going to add in some more chemical fertilizers just in case that corn gets tall as possible. Yes, yes. So we're going to be putting together probably a very big research project, opportunity now. What we want to do is unravel all of the related laws and rules related to the application of nutrients on our farm fields. And also better understand what that mass balance might look like. If we're over applying and the corn can only take up so much, what's happening to the rest of it? Yeah, it's going in the groundwater or the surface water. So we're going to be unraveling that because my experts said, we think this is why we haven't done the job necessary to protect our water. So those are some of the things we're going to be working on. Of course, we'll be responding to all of the legislature as it puts out all kinds of bills right now, but this will keep us busy in 2026. Next. And for any of you who just want to take a breath and spend an hour with folks who may share commonalities with your love of the environment and our natural resources, pop into one of our Green Fire cafes. It's about storytelling, it's about sharing, it's about connecting with people. This isn't a science program, it's all about how we feel. How do we feel in this space called Wisconsin? How do we feel in this space about natural resource protection? It's just a nice time to spend time together. So, I will shut up. Like I told those two, I have a tendency to talk for a very long time. I'm a former politician too, so that probably has something to do with it.
And the beer.
What's that?
And the beer.
And the beer. It's George's fault. He bought me a beer. I couldn't refuse. Chris Mechenich is going to come up here now. She is taking the lead on our Nitrate Watch program, and I'm ever so grateful. She's one of our experts who's given so much time to our organization. Thank you, Chris. Join the floor.
All right.
Well, thank you, Meleesa, and thank you to everyone for being here this afternoon. I am one of those people Meleesa talked about, not one of the first people who joined Green Fire, but somebody who has a 40-year career in public education about drinking water and groundwater, especially as it relates to public health. So I'm here to talk to you about Nitrate Watch, which I'm very excited about, and so we'll just continue on from there. And I'll tell you that Nitrate Watch is, at the national level, a community science program of the Isaac Walton League, the Isaac Walton League of America. Green Fire is a Nitrate Watch partner organization, which means that we help to promote the program in Wisconsin, and we help any members of Green Fire who have any needs related to the program in Wisconsin, providing them with information and helping them to get their data entered and such things as that. So you can switch from again to Nancy. You can, yeah,
Oh, that's right, right?
Uh-oh, I didn't pick up.
too far.
Sorry.
So you can sign up for Nitrate Watch through our Green Fire website, and I will have the QR code that you can use at the end. And the Isaac Walton League will send you a kit free of charge to test water for nitrate. And it looks like this. So you will be, this is a little vial. It has test strips inside, and it's a very simple procedure. You collect your sample of water, and you dip the test strip in for 1 second. Then you wait for 30 seconds, and you compare the color that your test strip turned to the color on this file, the map is simpler. So I'm going to pass this around so that you kind of get your own little hands-on experience with it and see how easy it looks like it is to do. There's someone doing exactly that in the screen. And there's even an app that you can use if you have any difficulty seeing colors. The app will read the test strip for you and give you a result. Okay, we're going to stick on this slide. In return, you are asked to make a plan to collect water samples. And you don't have to turn in your plan. This is just a plan for you so that you know what you're going to do with these 25 test strips. So you have 25 test strips. What can you do with them? Any ideas? Maureen?
Of course. Samples over time.
Okay.
Survey of a broad number of places.
Okay. Okay.
Those are two
So
options.
Maureen's getting ahead of me there. what kind of water are we going to test?
Surface water.
Surface water?
Well, you could test your well.
Drinking water.
Okay. So good. We can test lakes, we can test streams, we can test groundwater. We have 25 test strips. We can test our well 25 times. We can test our well and 24 of our neighbors' wells. We can test one stream 25 times. We can test all the lakes in Portage County. It's up to you what you want to do with these test strips. One of the mottos of the Nitrate Watch program is that all data is good data. So it's up to you. There is no pressure. You can do this as you like. You can do it at a time that suits you. You can do it at a place that suits you. But all data is good data. But as Maureen pointed out, if you have a specific question you want to answer with your test strips, like what happens to my lake when it's been very dry and then all of a sudden we have a very wet period, or what happens to my well between seasons, or what happens to my stream when that manure application that Meleesa was talking about gets washed into the stream. We do have on our website some ideas, like Maureen said, for targeted sampling, for making a plan to do it at a specific time and in a specific manner. Okay, now you can switch from the answer to the. So then you are also asked to input your results into the Nitrate Watch database. And this is an example of samples that have been collected just from our Green Fire members in the 6 months that we've been part of this program. So the Green Fire, the Isaac Walton League takes that data and they transform these small, simple actions that you've done into maps and into data tables that show us how is groundwater and surface water doing in Wisconsin and beyond. So as you can see up here, as of December, we have 74 members right now. And they have collected 116 samples from 85 different sites. And we have, as you see, we have some private wells. We have 6 public water supplies. That's another valid one to do that we haven't talked about. And then there are 61 surface water sites. We think that partnering with Nitrate Watch as Green Fire is important for 2 really big reasons. The first is to show that even though, as Meleesa said, we started out as a community of experts, and we are a science-based organization, You do not need to be a scientist. You do not need to have a degree in science to make a really important contribution to the work that we do. And we'll talk a little bit more about that later. But our intention is to build a community of people who care about water. So we have intention of having Zooms and maybe even in-person meetings where you can listen to somebody like me or Nancy, but you can also share your own story. Why did you sample that street? What did you find out when you were there? And so you get to talk to like-minded people who can support each other in doing this work. And also, as I said, we have, and Meleesa said, we have a lot of scientists in our organization. So we are people who can direct you to resources. If you have a question about your drinking water and is it safe to drink, you'll probably get directed to me. There are other people who can answer questions about groundwater, surface water interactions, or lake quality, or any of the different aspects of water that we can get information about by just doing this simple testing. Next one, please, Nancy. So the second big reason, besides empowering people and building a community, is that Wisconsin has really serious nitrate problems. This map shows nitrate concentrations in private wells, and this is by township. So this is a percentage map. What it shows us is that wherever you see a green square or a collection of green squares, anywhere between 0 and 5% of the people who live in that township have water that is higher than the nitrate standard. And that goes all the way up to 20 to 25%. I know that was crazy. So here we are in Portage County. There we go, in the middle. Okay. Here we are in Portage County, and we have our share of townships where a quarter of the people cannot safely, or a quarter of the wells do not provide water that is safe for people to drink. And that's not confined to just us. We've got the southern part of the state, we've got some stuff in the western part of the state, so this is a problem that we need to address. Now, you might be aware that the drinking water standard is 10 parts per million, which is also the same as milligrams per liter. That is a standard that was established, or that was developed in the 1940s. In the 1960s, it actually became part of health codes, which preceded the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency. So this is a very, very old standard and has not changed since the 1940s, despite the fact that we have more evidence now about maybe what the standard should be. The original standard was to protect babies from a condition that's known as blue baby syndrome. Nitrate interferes with the ability of babies' blood to carry oxygen. But we're increasingly finding that there are associations with other health problems, miscarriages, birth defects, colorectal cancer, and thyroid problems have all been statistically linked to high nitrate. And even nitrate that's below the 10 milligram per liter or part per million standard. So there are things to still be learned about this, and there are changes that need to be made. I would say that if you're going to do, this is just a little bit of a side thing, if you're going to do drinking water, you saw that little chart there, and you can probably guess that if the nitrate is 8 or if it's 11, you might have difficulty picking that out on that little test strip. And that little test strip is not meant to be that precise anyway. So if you have any question about anyone's drinking water, they should get a test at a certified lab. And everyone should get a test at a certified lab once a year for drinking water quality. That's really important, especially if you have infants, if you are thinking about becoming pregnant, or just in general, if you have high nitrate and you're concerned about these other health issues. Along with that, every municipality in Portage County, that is Amherst, Junction City, Stevens Point, Clover, and Whiting, has either had to replace one of their wells, abandon one of their wells, blend water from different wells together, or put in some kind of treatment system in order to provide safe water to their customers. Next, please, Nancy. We also have nitrate issues in surface water. This map shows us, there's a couple different things that it shows us here. The color of the dot shows what's happening to the water quality in that river. These are all rivers. So if the dot is gold, the nitrate level has been increasing over the period of time we've been looking at it. If the dot is blue, it's been decreasing, and you don't see a whole bunch of those. And the size of the dot here tells you what the nitrate concentration in that stream is. So when we look at, say, Kewaunee County, which is famous for having issues with groundwater quality and PFOS, not only is it increasing, but it's already somewhere between 3 and 6 parts per million in that stream. Okay, now I'm going to share just a couple of examples from my own sampling, and I'm going to ask you a question. One of my sampling sites is the Wisconsin River at Pickner Park in Stevens Point. Do you think nitrate is high there or low? High, low. Okay, I'm getting a mix. Okay, you can cheat and look at the little dot on map there. But Nancy, if you show the next slide, please. Oh, I'll just go back. You don't have to go back to the slide, but I will just say some of the problems with nitrate in surface water. Since nitrate is a fertilizer, it contributes to algae blooms, which harm our use of the water and also can be toxic in some cases. And when the algae blooms die, which inevitably they will because they'll run out of nutrients, then they use up oxygen from the water. And the fish and other aquatic organisms need that oxygen to survive. And nitrate is also directly toxic to some aquatic life, such as especially like tiny fish, fish fry, and fish eggs. So it interferes with reproduction of the fish as well. So here's my Wisconsin River site, the lovely Wisconsin River at Pickner Park, and the nitrate there was low. On the 4 gates that I sampled between August 6th and October 6th, it was 1 on 2 different occasions, and then on the last 2 occasions it was 0. Now, as a side note, if you get 0, that's still data. Sometimes people throw that away. They're like, well, there wasn't anything there, and they don't report it. 0 is data. All data is good data. So we want those zeros to be entered as well. Okay, now I'm going to ask you another question. Think about the Little Clover River at Little Clover Park in Clover. Is that enough clovers? Do you think the nitrate there is high or low? Eric says high. Okay, no one's saying low. Nancy, if you reveal the results. Okay, this is nasty. This is the Little Clover River at Clover, 3 different sampling sites, whole different scale now because I had to expand the scale. This is 15 parts per million twice and 12 on one of the occasions that I sampled. So if someone were to drink water from the Little Clover River, it would be unsafe for nitrate. Now, why are these so different? Why are these so different? Well, it's complicated, right? The Wisconsin River at Stevens Point has this giant watershed that goes all the way up into Vilas County, that is there where it starts. And it goes through lots of forested land, and it goes through Oneida and then Lincoln County. When it gets to Marathon County, it starts getting into more agricultural land. But apparently, on balance, by the time it gets to Stevens Point, either what nitrate there was has been used up by plants, or just the inputs just add up to a lower number. You've got more lower inputs than high inputs. The Little Clover River, on the other hand, has a tiny watershed, 21 square miles, very flat, very sandy. All the rainfall that soaks into the ground below the place where plants can use it will go into the groundwater, and that groundwater feeds the stream. So the amount of agricultural land is pretty much all agricultural in that watershed. So you can learn a lot. I mean, I think it's really interesting to do these things. So I'm just going to wrap up by saying, the last slide, please, Nancy. So these are not really our nitrate watch volunteers. There are some other folks, but they are good. And our nitrate watch community scientists are a very diverse group. Some people have a stream that they love, they recreate there, they live near it. They're just keeping an eye on it, and it's pristine, and that's good, and that's something. Some people are running around trying to address major issues like why is the nitrate in the Little Clover River 15? So some people are documenting water quality problems. But every single person who's part of this effort is gathering evidence about the quality of Wisconsin's water from nitrate. And not only can you share that information with your friends and neighbors, and you can advocate for clean water with local officials or beyond, we can also use that data in the work that we do when we produce reports, when we talk to legislators, when we try to make either water quality improve or protect water quality that is good, or when we try to advocate for policies like Meleesa was talking about to improve the quality of water where we're having problems. So this is the QR code that you can click on if you want to join us. This is also the website for Nitrate Watch at the Green Fire site, but you can sign up for the national program there. And we're going to hold questions till the end. And right now I'm going to turn this over to Nancy Turyk, who's going to talk to you about
sweet water. Thanks, Chris.
Sure.
Sure, that'd be lovely. So I'm going to talk about, this is another special project, it's short term, though, not ongoing. And little background on it. So what we're trying to do is lift up the knowledge of local government staff and elected officials about the role of nature-based solutions in helping our communities become more resilient to the effects of climate change. And one of the reasons, well, we chose nature-based solutions for multiple reasons. Of course, it's tied to our mission and our love of the environment, but natural solutions can actually account for about 30% of carbon reduction to reduce greenhouse gases across the world. So not so much, not as high in Wisconsin as it would be in the Amazon or something, but they're an important player in carbon reduction as well as resilience on the land. They incorporate, it's so common sense that people overlook this. So they use attributes of plants to either soak up water during heavy rainstorms or provide cooling effects. I have a list of co-benefits, we call them, as to their role in climate resilience, adaptation, and mitigation. So they do like the whole thing, actually.
And we received a grant from Wisconsin's Office of Sustainability and Clean Energy to lift up this work. Originally, there was a lot of funding available in the world to address climate change. And nature-based solutions were funded in a big way, but we recognize that most people do not think of them. They think of technological solutions and that sort of thing. So we conjured up this idea. We worked with a lot of partner organizations across the state to refine the ideas, and we came up with developing a guidance for local governments, very simple guidance, like which departments do what and why and that sort of thing. And then we're going to hold one regional workshop, and likely it'll be in Portage Wood, Maritime counties, because there's interest in that. And I've given presentations at different venues, and even people in natural resources don't seem to have a lot of knowledge about the role of this in community efforts. Okay. So our big problems, without getting into the data of it all, so this is all data based on data and studies and that sort of thing. But our biggest problems in Wisconsin, higher levels of precipitation for the most part, and increasing temperatures in the summer. And those are things that nature-based solutions can address. So sadly, we're all getting really familiar with these types of pictures. They've been taken from around the state. This is up in Bayfield County in 2016 when these types of massive events were kind of new to us. The map in the center shows where the high-intensity rainfalls have occurred in the state. And it appears that they're more prevalent in the western and southern part of the state, but those that delve deeper into these data suggest that there's no reason for that. There's no physical attributes or anything going on that would limit them to those areas. So Portage County is ripe for getting those kinds of major high-intensity rainstorms. But we can still have problems even when we don't have the 100-year floods. So the idea is when we have a lot of hardscape, impervious surfaces, we generate a lot of surface runoff and less water is able to soak into the ground. So when we have bigger, more intense rainstorms or fast snow melt, we generate a lot of runoff, and that can cause flooding, not just puddling on the surface, but affecting buildings and structures, and contaminate waterways and that sort of thing. So if we have pervious surfaces like vegetation, the water can a higher percentage of water soaks into the ground than is runoff. Milwaukee, the city of Milwaukee happens to be one of the first municipalities in the country that said, hey, we want to use, they call it green infrastructure as well, kind of the same thing, as part of our stormwater permit, because the EPA told them you can't keep running untreated stormwater into Lake Michigan. They kept violating their permits. And so they said, what if instead of we spend a gazillion dollars on more great infrastructure, giant culverts or whatever to hold the stormwater, what if we put green infrastructure all over the landscape? And EPA said, we'll give it a go. Now, a lot of cities do that, right? Especially big cities like New York City. They can't put green infrastructure on the ground as much, but they do a whole lot above ground with green rooftops that are used as parks, that are used as restaurants, all kinds of things. The largest piece of green infrastructure is City of Chicago, Millennium Park. So that's a parking structure roof, actually. Okay. See how we're doing? Okay, so here's some of the co-benefits for nature-based solutions, and I mentioned them because you can talk about putting these things and resilience on the landscape and community resilience without ever saying climate change, right? There's lots of different angles to this. So there's health benefits, reduced flood risks, better air quality and water quality, and health and well-being or quality of life attributes when you have more vegetation around, especially built landscapes. Economically, it's obvious that when you have less damage to infrastructure, you're lowering repair costs, you're lowering cooling and heating of building costs, and attracting residents and tourism, which is kind of an economic development angle if you were talking about these things. And then plants and animals, if you're using particularly natural vegetation, naturally occurring vegetation, you provide habitat, food, and then clean, cool, and water. I keep going to this.
We're going to talk about both.
Just a quick look at what some of these things encompass. So wetlands, Meleesa was mentioning wetlands aren't as protected. That means more runoff in the long run, actually. And more problems with flooding and more problems with these events. If you're doing agriculture and you have a vegetated landscape with perennial vegetation, you have fewer problems, less erosion, more resilience. When we have big floods, like Portage area had one, well, probably 5-8 years ago now, but their fields that had perennial vegetation on them were barely damaged, and there was mass erosion from fields that did not. So lots of different options, and of course our forests that hold a lot of carbon as well. So in a built environment, we can see the tree canopy is very much curb appeal, shade for cooling, and as well as looking at wildlife, that sort of thing. Constructed wetlands, the bioswales, rain gardens, constructed wetlands are more focused on stormwater management. Since I didn't talk a lot about heat, I wanted to throw this in here. There's lots of tools that will help our local government staff decide where to work and what sorts of things to put on the landscape. Like, you could spend your lifetime looking at all the tools that have been generated, honestly. So this is a tool called the Tree Equity Score. It's online, anyone can use it. This is the city of Stevens Point, and I believe it's divvied up by some kind of census district. The orange rectangle towards the top, well, I should back up. The Tree Equity Score compares temperature differences as well as other metrics based on if an area has 50% tree canopy cover. So that would be the goal according to them, right? The orange area has 21% tree canopy cover, so that would be a priority area. The heat disparity is when it's very hot out, it's 8 degrees warmer in that area than it would be if they did have 50% tree canopy. And the amount of green infrastructure, trees, nature is very tightly correlated with poverty. So more poverty, more cement, less plants, right? So in that particular area, 52% of the people living in that area live in poverty, or are living at a poverty level. In comparison,
Oh, you want to do that?
yes please. I did not memorize those numbers.
I did not.
Okay,
Follow directions.
the green area in the central part of Stevens Point has 54% tree canopy cover. It's estimated to be 3 degrees cooler there than if it had 50% tree canopy. And there are only 80% of the people living in that area that are in poverty. And as I mentioned, there's other metrics you can get from the tree canopy. So, to wrap it up, it's really complicated for you to get a good program that integrates nature-based solutions into the day-to-day work of all or many different departments at a local government level. If you think about, there's people that manage buildings, there's elected officials, there are health department and emergency management, parks and rec and highways. There's all kinds of things that go on in a local government sector. So to try and figure out who has a role in this and what might that role be, I kind of generalized these departments into 3 buckets with the recognition that there's a large space for crossover there too, right? So the people that are going to communicate about nature-based solutions tend to be those that are up in that blue-gray bubbles. The entities that would actually design nature-based solutions and put them into their projects would be like highways and transportation, the facilities people, public works, parks and rec, right? And then a lot of times green infrastructure requires changes in policy or regulations. So we, right now in this state, we are way behind in green rooftops because we have building codes that are antiquated. Well, there's new ones now, but that have been antiquated for a long time that prevented them from being placed on, even if a building was perfectly fine to accept them. So planning and zoning and elected officials have to address that. So when we have these workshops and build this guidance, we need to incorporate these different angles along with the science a little. And I think that's all I have.
Okay, that's it. Meleesa. And I will not talk long this time because it's getting late. And we've been here a long time. So the photo that you see, this is how we build capacity with the next generation of conservationists. That is our retreat at Lowenwood, which is in Land O'Lakes. That was from 2025. We just got done with one in 2026. We had students from UW-Madison, Oshkosh, Stevens Point, Eau Claire, River Falls, Green Bay, and then 2 private universities. All coming together to have hands-on opportunities and also to build networks, build capacity, and meet with some of us older folks who have actually been doing this work for a long time. Not me, I'm not a scientist, full disclosure, my background is public policy and public administration. If you like our work, please consider supporting us. If you are a subject matter expert, who's going to be retiring lately, or learn sometime soon, who may want to contribute to some of our work, please consider signing up for some of that. But thank you very much for being here. I appreciate it. I hope you all have a safe journey home. You may have a wonderful week. And here's a wish for 2026 that you only get better.
Is it okay if we open the floor for questions? Absolutely. All right. Anybody have any questions for any of these ladies?
question, maybe for anyone who could answer it, but I heard recently that people are driving the sewer waste, like the solids, I think, from Appleton out to this neck of the woods. Is there any rule about how far that stuff can get transported? Like if it's Appleton stuff, why is it coming into Portage County?
So, good question, thank you. There is no rule how far it can be transported. The rule is what are the economics of that mean? And do you have an available piece of land? And if that farmer, because that's where it's going, that farmland, its nutrient management plan still allows for that capacity to be put on that land, and it's been approved under their permit, that biosolids, and you can afford to transport it, that's what's going to drive it. Money.
Is there any rule about like PFAS or other chemicals that might be coming with that?
There are no standards for PFAS in groundwater or in biosolids. Michigan already has a standard, a recommended standard. PFAS are those current polyfluoroalkyls, that the forever chemicals. What Michigan has done is said they will test their biosolids. If I think it's up to 25 parts per trillion, that will be allowed to be land aquatic. So biosolids they do have nutrient value, but they also have risks associated with them. In that 25 to 50, there's certain notifications to the farmer to say, hey farmer, you may risk some liability. This stuff is here, we're letting you know, but the farmer makes the choice. Above that, I think it's above 100, I can't remember, then it's considered industrially impacted. That cannot be land acquired in Michigan. Michigan also has a ban on winter manure spreading. Yes! So, sorry, it drives me crazy. What's that? I know. But Wisconsin has no groundwater standard for PFOA, PFOS. And that's partly because the Joint Committee on Rules and Review, the legislative roadblock, has blocked the implementation of recommended limits on PFOA, PFOS, and groundwater. So the legislature not only wants to pass laws, but they want to write regulations they know nothing about. That is why in Wisconsin we don't have a groundwater standard. So even if you detect PFAS, and you can get a sample of your groundwater, your tap water, for these things, there's no standard. There's no standard for biosolids. We can do better. We will probably be issuing a paper, at least at a minimum, a conservation bulletin on PFAS in biosolids. We need the same standards as our neighbors. Period. So, and I should say, when companies are land applying those biosolids, they do have a permit. This isn't willy-nilly. Currently, there are a list of testing that has to happen. If it meets those standards, that biosolid can be land applied, and that can come from wastewater treatment facilities and generally paper mills. That's the other one that's not applied. So they're not violating the law, but we can do better by ratcheting up how we do this. So, thank you, sir, for that question.
I had a question for Chris. What is the organization, you mentioned it and I missed it, I apologize, that we can get these test kits from?
Oh, the Isaac Walton League. Or you can go through our website to sign up with that.
Great, thank you.
And I have that one test strip if it's still in here. Yes. I'm going to test that water that I took out of the bathroom. So if anybody wants to stand around and see what it is. Oh, my husband said I should say from the sink. If anybody wants to test themselves on what they would read on the little test strip, we're going to do that when we're all done here.
Yeah.
Where you said that you were pulling apart the nutrient standards, what was that called again, or what was that project called?
It's basically unraveling all of the different layers of rules. So there's the federal NRCS rules related to nutrients. Then we have natural resource. There's several NR codes
that relate to, because some of it, we have natural resource in our code for biosolids. We have in our code for nutrient management plans. And so we have different intersecting policies. Then we've got DAT codes. And they all kind of do this, but they don't connect. And in that, we haven't been able to robustly and meaningfully really track how we're applying nutrients to soil for the best outcomes, because you want crops to grow. But if you are over applying, and here's the other thing is, you have your co-ops who go, our agronomist says you're supposed to have this much fertilizer per square feet, blah, blah, blah. So they're pushing fertilizer.
I was gonna bring that up.
Yep. So you've got the fertilizer portion, then the manure portion of it, then the biosolids. And you can have a field that'll have all three of those. And any excess that isn't taken up is of course going to go to groundwater.
Because what my grazing team was telling me is that the farmer is going based off of what they're being taught.
Right.
And that comes from a model that they've been taught to use to plug their data in.
Snap Plus.
And that model was built by UW-Madison and has not been, and is essentially, if you go by the instructions, you are over applying.
Right, right.
So, do you have any farmers sitting at the table here to help provide like some real world, here's how it works, how do we fix it, to where things are happening on the ground, get things to change?
So remember I said that we, like, Golden Sands had some challenges in 2025. We lost federal funding for our farm sustainability reward program, and we had those farmers at the table.
Yeah.
So we lost that funding. I had to lay off 4 staff that was working on that project. That sucked. However, we still have a relationship with those farmers who recognize that we can't keep doing the same thing.
Right. Sure.
We want to get our unraveling done, and we want to bring them back in because Snap Plus is flawed and probably isn't, it may not be adequate for all soil types. So, so anyway, but yes, good question.
I was gonna say, could our grazing team help be a liaison or provide some input?
Absolutely.
With our current funding, I think we have the time to do that.
And the other thing that I think is an issue with this model is oftentimes it's the agronomist that works for the co-op that is making these recommendations, and the more fertilizer the co-op sells, the more money they make. So there's a direct conflict of interest there. So there's a lot of broken pieces in that system.
When I was on county board, I served 3 terms on the 4-term board, and I was contacted by a woman who lived in the town of Grant. It was pouring rain. She goes, Meleesa, I've got something I want to send to you. I've got a video. It was one of the big manure trucks and the pivot on the back. The road was rutted. It was pouring rain. This is again southwestern town of Grant. Pouring rain. That rutted road went right through that intermittent stream of an 18 gram. It's dotted with those streams. The field was bare right down to that intermittent stream. They were throwing manure off the back of that tanker. I called my friends, a friend who works at environmental enforcement, she doesn't anymore, and she goes, I can't do anything, I need all of these steps to happen first. You could see it, the manure was running off of that stream. So we can be better. We can be better. It takes a lot of work, determination, collaborations like ours on Waycoats. This isn't how. We're all small organizations compared to the might of money in corporations. Let's work together and get the shit done.
Literally.
Yeah, get the shit done. Yes, sir.
I guess maybe the answer might be is the old adage is think globally, drink locally. But we've never heard of this organization. We're involved with Audubon, Sierra Club, all those. And at the same time, Green Fire, I think there was something about Elbow Leopold in the past with that title. But why is it that we don't know about it?
We're relatively young. I'm the second executive director. I've only been with the organization a little over 2 years.
As with any young organization, getting out to everybody is a daunting task. In the last 2 years, I've put on about 27,000 miles to all parts of the state, having these conversations with people. Why should we care? What is the organization? What do? We partner with all kinds of organizations, but we do have an elderly Leopold underpinning. We do have permission from the Leopold Foundation to use the title Wisconsin Free Fire, and it's now a registered trademark, and nobody else is going to ever take it in this. So, and it's just time. I mean, we all heard this here at Logan, right? So,
And might I add, is very impressive. I mean,
thank you. Thank you.
very impressive.
I think early on, a lot of the outreach was to sign professionals,
Correct.
resource management.
Right.
Yeah, I knew about them, but I'm a science professional, I knew about that.
Right.
So that's it. If you're gonna try to build a base where they can do stuff that's policy, that's when you talk to them. And they did, said that.
And I'm not a science professional. And when I started, and they hired me anyway because I critiqued them. I said, if you're going to grow the organization, you have to reach regular people where they are, placement, right? Have those conversations. That's why we're doing Night Trail Watch. A lot of what I do is having just regular conversations with regular people on why they should care about clean air and clean water. I'm not a scientist. I care about what's going to happen for my grandchildren.
And similarly, speaking on behalf of our organization, we have been around a little while, but
Yes.
we have to make choices every day. We work in a really tight budget. And if we're spending money promoting ourselves, then that's money that's not being spent with boots on the ground conservation. So we're constantly making decisions about, where is that money best put. And in the past, when federal funding was flowing, it was easy for us to keep those grants moving and keep that work going. We're having to pivot our organization, like Wisconsin Free Fire and so many of our partners, to have a different focus, to find different funding, to get different people involved, to have the same mission, but do what we do in a different way.
Yeah. It's a tough world. But my granddaughter always says to me, because at the community level in my private life, I'm an activist and grassroots. I love engaging people and building capacity in our community. So I'm pretty much on the go all the time. And my granddaughter, Grandma, why do you keep doing this? I said, sweetheart, we have one of two choices. We do nothing, or we do something. I prefer to do something. Because there are forces that want us to do nothing. Do not let them. We will work to make this state a wonderful place to live, work, recreate, and thrive, and we'll do that for our communities, and we'll do that for this country. All of us. As I said, I'm a former politician.